Well, hello there, fellow dental professionals. It's James Younger here, founder and CEO of TempStars, and as you might know, practicing dentist. And excited to do this webinar. We're going to probably just wait a few minutes for more people to join, but everyone's time is precious, so thank you very much for spending some time with us and with me. We'll go through sort of a presentation deck. We're going to be pausing for questions and things like that, just to make it a little bit interactive and to answer as many questions as possible. There's also at the end a QR code that if something didn't get addressed or you have a comment or feedback or a specific issue, you can scan that QR code in your phone. It'll take you to a little form to submit, and that'll go to our customer support. Because I have a feeling that I won't necessarily be able to address individual specific questions. I'll speak in general broad terms about the new membership management system and how we're rolling it out in the plan there. But if there's specific things related to, say, your specific account or your specific situation, I might be able to answer it in general terms as it would apply to everybody, but I probably won't be able to necessarily address an individual specific thing on this specific call, but we will for sure provide a path for follow-up and that kind of thing. So just before I show the deck, and I'll wait a few minutes before I do, just a little bit of background for anybody who doesn't or didn't know. So I've been a practicing dentist for 27 years. And right now I practice out of a mental health hospital, and I also do some volunteer dentistry. I work closely with Filling the Gap, which is based out of Scarborough, Ontario, and also with Build Your Smile Foundation, and they do the travel trips to Central America, and they also had a free day in Picton that I was volunteering at. So still very much wet-handed dentist, but most of the time building and growing TempStars. Started it as an idea in 2015, launched it in 2017, and at that time, it was just me, and I had one coder who could work for 5 hours a week based out of China. And then just through a whole bunch of just hard work and determination, started to scale up there. And then I met Holly, and she was the first one to join the team. And over time, the team scaled up. And so now we are across Canada and in the US as well in select cities that way. So quite a journey. At this point, I think that we have completed around 165,000 temping shifts. And if you add up the invoice income for people who have used our platform as a dental hygienist or dental assistant, I think it totals over $58 million that people have earned to be able to support themselves and their families on our platform. I think we finished 1.25 million temping hours. And so, yeah, kind of an exciting time. And especially from the early days when it was me handwriting every confirmation email. I was just hand typing them, sending them from my laptop, and pulling over on the side of the highway every hour to see if there was any emails I needed to answer, issues I needed to solve that way. So super thrilled to have been able to just expand what we're doing and our reach and our impact, and to be aligned and surrounded by such a great team that we are all very kind of culturally and values driven. And so as we talk through here, and I'm going to touch on some of our values, we don't always get it right, but our conversations always surround how do we make it better, how do we solve problems, and that sort of thing. So I know dentistry can be a hard profession to work in sometimes, and sometimes by default there's a shell of jadedness or cynicism sometimes. But our team is not like that at all. All we talk about is how we can help people, how we can improve the service, how we're listening, how we're responding, and that sort of thing. So a little bit of background there, and I'll just, I think we're at 4 after, so I'll kick off here. All right, so what I'm going to do, if you have questions, you can type them into the chat, and Holly and Lucy and Mallory are sort of keeping an eye on the chat for me as I'm going through the presentation, and they're going to kind of message me any messages, and then what I'll do is pause, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 times during the presentation, read over some questions and see if I can answer them in real time as we're working through here. We're also going to be posting this, so if you feel like you've missed something or you want to review something, we're going to be posting this recording so that you also have a copy of it that way. Let me get into slideshow mode. All right. So the whole thing right now and what we're talking about is sort of membership management, right? Systems we have in place to ensure that as we grow and as we scale and as we're making all these connections, and it's very high volume. We're not a small sort of agency that with a Rolodex that we call, we're trying to build a system that consistently makes great connections between dental professionals and dental offices, because fundamentally, as hard as it is to work in dentistry, and it's a very challenging profession, the happier everybody is at work, the happier the culture of an office is. And a happy office culture attracts patients, and patients can detect that, and then they're more likely to book in for their future appointments, and they're more likely to get access to the care that they need. And so this idea and the societal impact that excites me is just the idea of making really great connections at scale consistently with all the dental offices and dental professions that we serve. So I'm going to go through the history of it, but that's what this is. Over the last 18 months, we've completely revamped, right down to the foundation, the concepts and philosophies behind how we manage membership statuses, and all of those sorts of things. And I'm going to walk you through it. You'll see that our current system that was implemented about 4 or 5 years ago is called the Gardner. And the Gardner system was an automation, it's an algorithm, and it served its purpose for the time, but realizing it didn't have the nuance, it didn't have the subtlety, it was just too blunt. And so to completely deconstruct how we manage our membership and statuses and limitations and things like that, that's what this is all about. And the title of it and the new system is called Fair Fresh Start. And that's really what it is. It's cleaner, fair, there's more recovery pathways, and it's built around this idea of reliability and feedback steps and transparency and all of those sorts of things. I think it's worth just reading these. We have 8 values as a company that really, and we were just saying today, haven't really changed. We read one value at each meeting we have, and we just kind of cycle through them. And these 2 kind of apply to how and why we kind of even cared about building this new membership management. So we as a company, and TempStars as a company, we have to be worthy of trust with integrity and authenticity and reliability and a genuine connection for those who rely on us. And that's the cornerstones of the trust. So we have the courage to recognize our own shortcomings and revisit things. And also you'll see down at the bottom, we're boldly enthusiastic, and we have a lot of, and especially me, unbridled optimism, but we also check ourselves to make sure that we just accurately reflect on things we need to improve in, and we don't necessarily see things as failures, as this is success in progress. So we really do fundamentally care, and the team is shaped by this idea of trustworthiness, authenticity, and integrity. But the other one, and again, this one has not changed, is this idea of community stewardship and service to the profession. So we do recognize that as we grow, our influence expands, and it really does affect people who are working in dentistry, whether it's a dental office owner or a manager or someone who's trying to find people to work at their office, or if it's a dental hygienist or dental assistant or anyone in admin or even associate dentists who are trying to make a living in the dental profession. So we cultivate this united dental community, and we foster this collaboration, and genuinely we realize that sometimes connecting dental offices and dental professionals, there's a little bit of a nexus of tension there sometimes, right? And so this idea of being balanced and making sure that our focus is happy connections where everybody has good feelings, and then figuring out how do we kind of navigate sometimes that little bit of tension between what an office is looking for and what a dental professional is looking for. But we sort of embrace that, and we just realize that's kind of that's the world that we live in, and we try to navigate that as best we can. So Fair Fresh Start as a system, what it is not is it's not a new punishment system, and it's not new hidden scoring systems, and it's not a zero tolerance policy. It's definitely not a replacement for humans. Just like the Gardner, the Fair Fresh Start is a system that allows our human team to leverage their abilities to consistently manage our membership and address questions and handle problems and issues and things like that. And it's also not an automatic reset for everyone. And I suspect, just based on some of the questions we had pre-submitted, there are people in our membership who may have been sidelined, and some of them from the Gardner, and possibly incorrectly, because like I said, the Gardner was not nuanced enough. But there are some individuals on our membership platform that just genuinely, after multiple second tries and really being understanding about things, have been determined as just not a fit for our service. And we have to acknowledge that reality, but the Fair Fresh Start doesn't set everybody back at zero. There's still an acknowledgement for past track records and patterns, but there's also a recognition of the Gardner was okay for its time. It ended up not scaling and being somewhat broken by the time we got to Fair Fresh Start, as we're getting there now. And our customer support team was saddled with this idea of using tools to manage a system that was working less and less effectively. So we acknowledge that fully, but what it's not is a full reset button for every single person who's used TempStars. The system is more transparent and clearer, There are better membership recovery paths. It's more balanced, it's easier to understand, and it's designed to reduce sudden surprises because there, as you'll see, there's a more gradual path in terms of moving up from a membership status or moving down from a membership status. So that's kind of the gist of it. So the whole thing, like I said, it started, I was handwriting every email. I was literally managing individual accounts by going into the database and making changes directly in our database. Hilariously, even before the gardener, it became evident sometimes that some people weren't a fit for our membership. And the only way I could manage that was to go in and I would set their location to Siberia. And so there was a dental office who wasn't a fit because they were not compliant, or it was unsafe, or just consistently bad feedback, and I would set their location to Siberia. And if there was a dental hygienist or a dental assistant who was just clearly not a great fit for the TempStars platform, also their location would be set to Siberia. And that just way, there was no shifts available in that area. And that was just how I kind of cobbled together membership management from the early days. Obviously, that didn't scale. And it was just me making a bunch of judgment calls about, oh, I think this should happen, I think this should happen or not happen. I couldn't remember everything. And obviously, that's just a broken way to grow with any consistency that way. So why we needed to evolve was we have to make sure that we're consistently growing and supporting skilled and reliable dental professionals who want a means to have a flexible lifestyle in dentistry, but also support themselves and their families. We want to protect the offices who are really relying on booking a consistent and predictable way that a dental hygienist or assistant who says they're going to come in for a shift comes in for a shift. And so the booking would be honored that way. We also need a system that's fair and gives recognition to life can happen, and to be fair when the problems do happen. So it's not a generic penalty and it's not a blunt object or a big hammer, but just a more subtle way that we can manage things fairly, but still being diligent and committed to consistently great membership management. We also needed to make sure we had a better path forward for people who might have been hitting a warning track or developing a trend for decreased reliability and feedback and things like that. So we want everybody to be set up for success. So we knew that we needed to build out pathways so that if somebody was kind of trending in the wrong direction, there was that ability to have a nudge back into with the resources to set them up for success and kind of get back on the path. And it's interesting, like, because we've completed so many dental temping shifts and so many reviews with so many, I think at this point, maybe we have 32,000 dental hygienists and assistants in our platform, and I don't know, 11 or 12,000 dental offices, but it's a lot. And so we have the data that we can look at and say, this is what percentiles look like. This is what cancellations look like from a spectrum standpoint. And this is what the top performers from a reliability look like. And this is what medium performers look like. And statistically, we know this trend is something that is below average. So at least we have the confidence of the size of the data to start to make informed decisions about who's trending up, who's trending down, who's top performing, who needs some support, and that sort of thing. So yeah, the first system was the gardener, right? So it did create consistent standards, and it was just based on basically how many shifts did you complete and book and how many did you cancel. It was also based on feedback of how many times were you favorited or blocked. And so it was just a percentage. And so it was okay, but again, not subtle enough, but it did, because we, even at that point, we had the data to know. And it was kind of interesting that even somebody who had more than 3% blockages, like if more than 3% of the time a dental office wanted to block that person, then that was in the bottom 20th percentile, because overall the membership's very reliable with great feedback, and 97% of all dental offices say they're very happy or happy with the person who's been at their office. So when somebody even had more than 3% of being blocked, that was already a flag there, just based on the data and the trends and that sort of thing. But again, not subtle enough, not nuanced enough, and it was just a little too blunt that way. And again, that's where it struggled. It was sudden status changes. It's an overnight algorithm, so it runs a giant analysis every night, and so people wake up finding out they're blocked and things like that. The thresholds were too hard. There's a whole bunch of manual fixes the support team had to use their tools to fix as things kind of got off the rails a bit, if the gardener was, flagging someone that shouldn't have been flagged and that sort of thing. It was also difficult to tell from a status standpoint if it was reliability or feedback, and it just became kind of one giant membership issue. So again, we just needed to revisit all of that. So why don't I pause there? Holly, do you want to turn your microphone on?
No, sorry.
Oh. So that Holly, everyone, are the first person to join me on this crazy TempStars journey, and also our product manager. So do we have some questions in chat?
No, nothing yet.
No? Okay. Then I'll just keep going. All right, so thinking about Fair Fresh Start, we know why we needed to build a system, and that was the gardener, and the gardener worked so well for so long, but it didn't scale. So then why did we revamp it? Those are the reasons. And so what's the new thing? Fair Fresh Start. Now, Fair Fresh Start, it was a complete team effort, and it's been about 18 months of discussions and meetings and analysis and just debating back and forth what's the best way to be fair and diligent and offer paths back and be transparent and all of those different things. And this is what we've come up with, and we're feeling very excited about it because it addresses the concerns that the gardener had. So it's fair for dental hygienists and assistants. It's fair for the offices who are relying on that confirmed coverage. It has it's fair if you're having a setback. Maybe you're dropping in reliability, maybe your feedback is trending downwards. So there's a fairness there for paths forward. And also in terms of, we have to think about the long-term health of the TempStars community, because we think of it holistically, that imagine as a dental hygienist or dental assistant, if you cancel a shift or you have a trend of canceling shifts, the office is understandably upset. Now, we don't just favor the office in that scenario, but what we do think is, well, if the office is upset and says, oh, I booked with TempStars and the hygienist canceled and they're not reliable and I'm going to stop using TempStars now. Well, the big thing I think about is, what does that do to all the other hygienists or assistants who might otherwise have picked up future shifts to support themselves and their families from that office? But because that office had that experience and has stopped using our service, it cuts off that supply of shifts for the hygienists and assistants who want to support themselves and their families. So we think of very long-term community health that way in terms of our membership management and decisions we make. So it's kind of like the gardener. There's two main things we think about, right? Reliability, feedback. Reliability is, when you book a shift, do you show up for the shift? Because even if you're the most fantastic, highly skilled, everyone loves you as a dental hygienist or dental assistant, if you book a shift and don't show up for it, that's reliability, and that has a negative impact on the office, the patients, the community, all of those sorts of things. So no matter how great you are, the idea of showing up is important. But then the feedback part matters too, because imagine you show up early every single shift, but your clinical skills are lacking, or you're not, the patient care is not there, or there's just some situation that you're causing unhappy connection after that shift is completed. Well, the reliability is there, but if the experience isn't there in terms of a great connection and providing that great service to patients and things like that, that's also an important factor. And so that's the idea, is our office is happy after a complete shift. There's that ability for them to mark people as favorites. So you experience consistently positive feedback, that sort of thing. So it's those two things. It's feedback and reliability. Showing up, providing a great experience. It's also worth noting now, and I do touch on it further down, it isn't just about the dental hygienists and dental assistants that we care about being reliable and getting great feedback. We're right in the middle too of starting to build out the dental office management system. And that will be things like paying on time, setting people up for success, communication friendliness tools, infection control, all of those different things, to have those measurements so that we know top offices who are struggling, who needs resources, and to offer that transparency. If you're looking at a shift, then it can say, oh, this office is trending with bad instruments. So then you can make an informed decision about how badly do you want to work in an office who has bad instruments. Maybe it's the only shift available for that day or for you, and you do want to work it, but at least your eyes are open knowing you're going into an office like that. So the new system, and this is actually part of the old system as a carryover, but the Fair Fresh Start system and the gardener system need a certain number of shifts before it's even statistically relevant. So when you're completing your first up to 4 or 5 shifts, the Fair Fresh Start doesn't actually kick in because you don't quite have enough of a track record for it to make any effective management statuses or anything like that. So you're in provisional status for those first few shifts as you're building your track record, as you're building out your profile, completing shifts, getting feedback, that sort of thing. So that's those first few, and that's the provisional status. So it's an opportunity to build a strong early track record, but even for us, if somebody is trending down quickly in those first few shifts, it's also sort of for us an early warning sign that somebody might need help or be set up for success or a course or things like that, so that they don't go too far off the rails in those early days. After you've completed 5 shifts, that's when the Fair Fresh Start system kicks in. So that's where we've got reliability and feedback. We have the statistics, we have the data to start thinking about pro status, elite status, active status, and those sorts of things. So it's based on the data of those 165,000, 170,000 completed temping shifts with all of those reviews and ratings and the entire spectrum of percentiles of top 10%, top 20%, top 30%, below average, those sorts of things. It also unlocks, after you get out of provisional, and you have your 5 shifts completed, the My Stats page shows you a lot more, because before those shifts are completed, it shows you how many shifts you've completed and things like that, but it doesn't show you your track record of feedback and reliability and things like that. Once you get out of provisional and you've completed your 5th shift, that's when it kind of unlocks those additional statistics, so you can kind of track your performance yourself through your stats platform. So the reliability is just, so we have completely revamped it. In the Gartner system, a cancellation is a cancellation. The new system is a cancellation is scored based on timing. And so if you are, say, giving lots of notice for a cancellation, the shift isn't for a few weeks, that is scored as a lower cancellation score than if you were canceling last minute, which is more dramatic and more impactful, that sort of thing. And recognizing, of course, that life can happen and those sorts of things, but we're thinking about trends and patterns and that kind of thing. So that's where the timing and the impact of the cancellations happens. The other interesting thing that we built in is the reliability is weighted. So it considers 40% of your lifetime reliability, 60% of your recent reliability, so that if you've, say, been struggling in reliability, you can quickly gain out of that with a new reliability track record recently. And similarly, if you've been reliable for a long time, but something's happened that you're suddenly canceling a lot of shifts and your reliability is going down, well, that recency will also be weighted more heavily than the lifetime thing. So it allows for a little bit more dynamic of what is happening right now from a reliability standpoint versus track record, without completely ignoring the long-term history with TempStars and reliability. And then, of course, our support team, and even now, we have the tools to say, like, if something happened that there was a misunderstanding, and customer support has the tools to say, oh, well, we're going to score that cancellation as a 0. Or the other system is, imagine you were sick, so you had to cancel 5 shifts that you had booked. Well, you don't get dinged for 5 cancellations. It's one event of being sick. So all of those get lumped into just one single cancellation. So it's a little bit more fair for consideration. Or if you were in some kind of accident or that kind of thing, and you had a whole bunch of shifts booked that you had to cancel, every one of those doesn't weigh against you from a reliability standpoint. Feedback, there's kind of 3 ways that feedback is measured. There's an overall star rating, and similarly to the same way that you rate dental offices, right? So there's a star rating. You can be marked as favorite or blocked. And you also have these individual detail things. Not every office fills out the individual details, because you can see you've got the star rating, but then there's also little things for clinical skills, professionalism, communication, time management, and then being favorited or blocked. So not all of these get filled out all the time. So star rating matters, being favorited and blocked matters. These also matter, but only up to a certain threshold, because the data just hasn't been gathered yet to make really strong feedback spectrums about that in terms of percentiles. And then similarly, it's weighted, so there's recent versus long-term. If there's repeated patterns of certain things, we care about setting you up for success. So that's where we say, hey, you're starting to trend this way a bit. Here's a fantastic course you could take on clinical skills, because we want you to be successful. We want you to get it back on track that way. We also have a neat resource library on YouTube. So they're very specific to the feedback. And so we can say, oh, there's a course on YouTube about clinical skills, or depending on the professionalism and communication and all of those different things. And as with Fair Fresh Start, it's about history and patterns. It's not one-off feedbacks that can completely derail you that way. So we have these new membership statuses, and I'll kind of walk you through them a little bit. First 4 shifts, you're provisional. That's where you're building your profile. And then if you're falling in the bulk of the middle, you're active. That's fine. You've got full access to everything. A strong performer who's getting the top 20th percentile of feedback and or reliability is in pro status for that. And elite is in the top 10th percentile from a feedback reliability standpoint. And this is new, if you start to slip in reliability or feedback, there's 2 levels that you go to. So if you're slipping in reliability, where it says, okay, well, this is a below average reliability, we've taken into consideration anything that might be life happening and things like that, but reliability is slipping a bit. It's kind of like hitting the rumble strip on the highway, where it's a little warning to say, okay, you're slipping here. And what we do is just add little limitations to shift visibility, meaning instead of 110 kilometers, you can see shifts that are closer to you. And instead of any time in the future, they're a little closer to the current date. Because statistically, we know that if someone's going to be slipping in reliability, they're more reliable if the shifts are closer to their home and they're sooner to the current date. So we just start to add little limit. Now, it still means you can still book shifts and you can complete shifts and you can get back out of there, back into active and pro and elite, but it's just that little warning track. If you hit the warning track on reliability and reliability continues to slip even after that, again, now that's just level 2. You're not blocked or kicked off, but now it's closer and sooner. So it just gets to closer and closer, sooner for those 2 levels. If you hit that level 2 reliability limitation of really close and really soon, and the reliability is still not there, then you hit what's called courses required. Now that means you can't book any shifts until you take this course on reliability. Take the course on reliability, finish the quiz on reliability, and then you're brought back up to the limited status so you can book shifts again and start to work your way back up from there. And the approach is similar to feedback. If feedback's slipping, it's like limited 1 feedback where, and for feedback, your limitation is just the maximum number of shifts you can book at a time. So you get a little bit restricted on how many shifts at a time you can book. If the feedback is slipping, if it slips further, then you're limited to even, I think, 1 shift at a time, just to give you an opportunity to book and complete shifts and work your way back out of there. If you slip below that again, then you're into course required. Here's a course on how great clinical skills and getting good feedback. Take the course, finish the quiz, you're back up to the limited status where you can work your way back up with good feedback. We also built a neat little thing that, well, maybe I'll keep going here. So we've got the reinstated with limits, which is after you finish the course, you're reinstated with those limits. If you slip again down past that, then we have to acknowledge you might not be a fit for our membership. And so at that point, your account's blocked, except for extenuating circumstances. But it's kind of been limited 1, limited 2, take a course, get back up here, and then you've hit that down again. We have to acknowledge there's going to be people who just aren't a fit for our service, which is fine. And we do everything we can to set everybody up for success that way. But from a feedback standpoint, if you take the course and you're back to reinstated, and then imagine, there was an office a month ago that you had completed a shift, and then just after you've taken the course, they give you bad feedback, that doesn't ding you because that happened before. The shift was from before you took the course. So after you've taken the course, after you get reinstated, only feedback that you would get after you've taken that course counts to your membership status that way. The other thing we've built in is this on a break, because we also know if you're a new grad and your feedback is slipping, and then you take a course, and then you're back and your feedback slips again, it doesn't mean that you can't be a great dental professional. It could just mean that you're early in your career. So if you have slipped down in feedback and then taken the course, then you're back up and you slip down again, you don't hit not a fit. You just ask to take a 6-month break. Build up your confidence, build up your skills, maybe work at offices, volunteer, those sorts of things. But it doesn't mean that you're not a fit for our service. It might just mean that you're early on in your career. So there's another chance there. All right, I'll pause there. Anything from a internationally trained dentist? Oh, yeah. Okay. Currently studying full-time. I'd love to work as a dental assistant. In the meantime, is there a pathway on the platform for uncertified? So the question is about, as an internationally trained dentist, looking at taking licensing exams and wondering about working as a dental assistant who's not certified. And in Ontario, the challenge there is, oh, thanks, Lucy. Yeah, so Lucy did answer that. But yeah, the challenge is most offices are looking for somebody with HARP. And if you indicate you're an internationally trained dentist who's not HARP certified, you can send in offers for dental assistant shifts. And the dental office has that transparency to say, okay, well, we don't need somebody to take x-rays, so I guess that person can come in. But they also have to know that you can't take x-rays, and if you don't have the IPAC certification, then it's sort of a floater position, but we're okay with those matches as long as the everything's accurate in terms of your skills and qualifications. All right. let's just see. So Monica, I see your question. Oh, there. Right. So the question is, how long are the courses and if we can apply them to our CE credits? Currently, no, they're just courses we made, and we made them in conjunction with some of the dental professionals who are just sort of skilled in training people. So they're just internal courses we've made. But one of Mallory's initiatives, she's our VP of operations, she's looking to get CE certifications for our courses so that we can offer CE credits. But no, currently they're not long courses. An hour and a half, and there's a quiz at the end and that sort of thing. So they're not officially long courses and they're not multi-day courses. It's an online course and you can actually take it right in the app. And so there's an automated quiz and we know when you finish the quiz and all of those. The current way, and one of the reasons we're revamping this too, is right now to take a course, you have to go to TempStars Academy, which is a different platform, and then create an account there and then find the course and then take the course and then download the certificate and then send it to our customer support team who then reviews and then reinstates you. That's a very broken system too. So we're building everything into the app itself, and we're going to even flesh out our continuing education system a little bit more that way too, because you'll be able to take them right in the app itself. Yeah. So Linda, so with the new, and I'll touch on this. I'll touch on this in a few slides down. So we're in final testing for Fair Fresh Start. Once the testing is done and we know it's working as expected, what we're going to do is almost a preview run just internally as a team with this very complex analysis to say, if we roll it out now, what happens to everybody, right? So does anybody go up in status? Does anybody go down in status? Does anybody who's provisional, and all of those different things. But it's not a reset for everyone. So if you've been using TempStars, you definitely wouldn't be in provisional because provisional only happens for the first 4 shifts. So if you completed more than 4 shifts, then you're into Fair Fresh Start with all of the different statuses. A little further down in the slides, I'll touch on, we built in, because we don't want to pull the rug out from anyone either, right? So we don't want to say, hey, welcome to Fair Fresh Start, also your status just tanked. So we've built in sort of this idea of a grandfathering status, meaning once we roll it out, nobody goes down in status for a set amount of time. So if imagine you were elite and you were going to be pro, it's a rare thing because most people, and we geared it to either stay the same or go up. But if there's some cases where based on the new system, you would be dropping down, you don't drop down right away. It just says, hey, after the grandfathering period, you will be, say, pro from elite, but to keep your status at elite, just do these things like complete these shifts and that sort of thing. So we're really trying to make it as fair as possible, even as we roll it out, because we don't want to pull the rug out from people who have been using our system consistently, providing great experiences and have good statuses and reliability and that sort of thing. So we're very aware and conscious of that. And so we're going to kind of do this entire preview analytics thing to say, okay, this is the impact of this. And if it looks like it's going to be a bad impact, then we're just going to retune some of the kind of the percentile ranges to make sure that the implementation is a fair fit for our membership. All right. Said, okay. So those are the new statuses. Now, when we're talking about those limited, oh, thanks, Lisa. When we're talking about the limited status, it's not a block. It's like that warning track, right? So we have to make sure holistically that we are always thinking about our entire membership management, community, the people who trust and rely on us, the dental offices, the patients, but also the dental professionals, of course. So the limitations are something that helps to guide somebody and let them know you're a little bit limited here because of this track record, but you can still book in complete shifts and work your way back up. So limited is not blocked. It's reliability, like I touched on. You get a shorter window for the future and a closer distance. If it's feedback that you're struggling with, then we just cap the number of maximum shifts until you sort of complete shifts with great feedback and work your way back up. But you've got that sort of reduced access to shifts as you're working your way back up. So the recovery course is kind of as I touched on. If you are active or provisional and then you hit limited 1, and then from limited 1 with the opportunity to work your way back up, you've hit limited 2, And it's still, you can still book shifts, but there's that extra limitation. And even with that, you've hit courses required. That's the part where a course is required. And so with a course required, then you aren't able to book any shifts, but it's just said, hey, you have a restriction on your account, take this course, finish this quiz, and you'll get back activated. So it's all automated, and you'll know which course to take, and you take the course and you finish the quiz and you hit submit the quiz and everything's automated, and you're back into the reinstatement status within 24 hours. And some people, hopefully very few, but bad reliability, bad feedback, trending down to those limitations. Some people may end up having to take both courses, but hopefully the courses are able to set them up for success and get them back on track. After you've taken the courses required, you've taken the course, you passed the quiz, you're in that reinstatement state. Now, you still have some limitations, but you can book and complete shifts and work your way back up. You can get to active, you can get to pro and elite. But if you're in that limitation again and things slip down again, that's where you hit, well, the reinstatement limitations is the limitations part. But if you slip down again, you're not asked to take the course again because we've been there. We're just down into not a fit. But if you're a new grad, you don't hit not a fit, you're just hit on a break. And then you're on a break for 6 months and then come back. And then you're kind of reinstated, and then you have an opportunity to improve your track record that way. And that's what that is. Rare cases, not a fit, on a break for new grads. And so that is, and really, we just have to acknowledge, and over the experience of that many shifts that we've completed and the size of our membership, we want everyone to be successful, but at some point we have to acknowledge that there are certain people, and a very small handful, that just aren't a fit for our membership. And we probably will build out a page for anybody who is not a fit for other resources, maybe other services, maybe other opportunities they can have to improve themselves in the dental profession. If you're deemed not a fit, maybe you can't book any temping shifts, but you still can log in and you can check your invoices and you can check your work history and you can still contact support and all of those things, but you just won't be able to see any temping shifts if you're not a fit. The My Stats page is just the explanation hub, right? It gives you your track record, how many shifts you've completed, how much money you've made, how many cancellations you've done, feedback ratings from a percentile standpoint, and a label. And if you have a limitation, it says your limitation is this, and here's the path to being unlimited, meaning here's the limitation, complete shifts with good feedback, or complete shifts reliably and work your way back up to active without limitations. But what you'll see, and I think it's the next slide. Yeah, so in the calendar, if you have a limitation, there's a little flag that'll show on the calendar that says you might not be seeing all the shifts due to a limitation on your account. Click here for more information, and that takes you to My Stats, and you say, oh, okay, and then you'll know what to do after that. So we're also switching to, and there's going to be the two dimensions of feedback and reliability independently, but if you're in the top 10% of feedback, you're outstanding feedback. If you're in the top 10% of reliability, outstanding reliability. Then we've got very good, good. Then we have below average. And then if you're that far below average, then you've got this recovery courses required sort of thing. So rather than seeing raw data, we're building in percentiles so that you'll know if you're a top performer in the top 10% or doing well. Good is sort of like being active, pro, and elite. You might tweak the wording of these a little bit, but that's the gist of it, is to know a label of where you're sitting on a percentile basis. And this is what I mentioned about the grandfathering. So when we roll it out, we don't want to pull the carpet out from under anyone. We're going to roll, first we're going to do the preview analysis to make sure we've got things tuned properly for the transition time. But when we do roll it out, anybody whose status will go down doesn't go down. There's this grandfathering period. There's a clarity behind it to say you're currently this. After the grandfathering period, you'll be this. In the meantime, do these things to make sure you can maintain or even improve your status that way. The grandfathering isn't immunity though. Like imagine you are elite and you would go down to pro, but the grandfathering says, okay, we're going to preserve your elite and do these things. But if you don't do that, like imagine you canceled a bunch of shifts or suddenly got a whole bunch of bad feedback, it doesn't still keep you at elite. So it's not immunity to going down, it's just protection from going down for the rollout. And as it says, gives you time to understand the new system and that sort of thing. So there's a grace period in there that we won't just roll this out and the next day find out that you're a different lower status. And kind of like I said, so we're not resetting everything. It's not like hit a button and everyone's back at zero and starting from that. It's just a reconfiguration of the way that we manage the membership. And like I said, there's this transition thing where the gardener's saying this, Fair Fresh Start saying this: when we roll out Fair Fresh Start, there's going to be changes. There's going to be a little bit of a jostle as those different statuses land, but we're going to make sure that when we run the analysis that it lands in the way that is fair and makes sense. Also, yeah, so good standings carry forward. There's better transparency in recovery paths. But also, it's, here, Fair Fresh Start doesn't ignore the past trends, patterns, and decisions, and our membership review team will be personally evaluating individual circumstances that way. So the gardener is retiring. Thank you for your service. So served its purpose, got us a long way. The cracks really started to show as we got bigger. And so good night, gardener, and welcome Fair Fresh Start. The other thing is the Fair Fresh Start is more real time. So gardeners, everything was overnight. It was an overnight algorithm that ran, and it took, I don't know, 2 hours for it to analyze the entire membership and set statuses and things like that. This is more of a real-time calculation. So when you're completing a shift, if you're canceling a shift, if you're getting feedback, if you're completing the course, things happen more dynamically in real time rather than waiting to wake up to find your status changed kind of thing. And even from a cancellation standpoint, we've added that level of transparency to cancellations to say, hey, you're about to cancel this shift. These are the things that are going to happen if you cancel this shift. And then at least you kind of have an informed decision to say, okay, yep, that's going to happen when I cancel this shift, sort of thing. Corrections take effect sooner, all of that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, so when we roll it out, there's going to be, my stats is going to be clearer. If you're provisional, so if you haven't completed up to 5 shifts yet, still limited in the My Stats. But once you've completed those 5, the My Stats is going to be very informative in terms of your current status and just statistics and all of those different things. The recovery steps are going to be in place. The courses themselves, you'll be able to take them in the app itself rather than going into a different platform. We've got the rollout protection, meaning the day that we deploy this, nobody's going to drop in status. And there'll be transparency behind. Grandfathering is protecting you at the status after the grandfathering period is over, which I think we've landed on is 90 days. So you've got 3 months to say, okay, grandfathering's holding you here, do these things to make sure that you can maintain your status. And we're also making sure that when we roll it out, it's tuned properly, that's the exception rather than the normal case. We want people to maintain their status or have their status improved. And I think at the first time I did that analysis a month and a half ago, the way we had it tuned was something like 450 people gained pro status from non-pro status. And I think maybe, I don't know, 30 people lost pro status or something like that. So there's going to be, and again, they wouldn't lose it because of the rollout protection, the grandfathering, but that's kind of where that landed. We thought, oh, well, that's fantastic. There's going to be a lot of people that are happy that this new system gives them pro status. Same with Elite. So we were kind of tuning it that way to make sure that overall it's a net positive for our entire membership and community. If something looks wrong to you, of course, customer support's there for help, but check out the My Stats, see where your stats are, and then see if there's any limitations on your account, and there should be guidance in terms of how to get your status back up. Our customer support team, we're also doing a slight change to the philosophy of customer support, meaning they're not going to be, say, just changing your status, but evaluating, say, the facts behind cancellations or the facts behind feedback, and making changes to those specific instances. And then once they make those changes, it will automatically recalculate. So there won't be a thing that says, hey, can you make me pro? It might be a thing of like, there's a misunderstanding about feedback, or there was some problem, like something about cancellations or that sort of thing. So they can adjust those statistics. Then the system will automatically do the recalculation and set the status accordingly that way. What's not changing is just what it means to be part of the TempStars community, right? And, as a practicing dental professional myself, and the things I care about, and I think it's the things that we all should care about as a dental profession, is great patient care, being skilled and reliable, focusing on patient care, and then from a temping standpoint, providing those positive temping experiences, because for everybody that goes out and provides a positive temping experience for a dental office, that strengthens our community, because it means more opportunities for other dental professionals and colleagues that way, but also great patient care too. Communicate early if something goes wrong. Be sure when you're booking a shift that you're confident that you're going to be able to keep it. Show up prepared and professional and committed to delivering great patient experiences, which just sounds fairly basic, but if you're going in for a temping shift, make sure, and we do get notes and feedback about this. These days, don't show up at the office in your scrubs. You should change into your scrubs at the office and then be changed into your scrubs and ready to work at the start time. You don't want to be walking in late, wearing your scrubs, carrying the coffee 5 minutes late kind of thing. Just come early, be professional, be prepared, and do what you can for the things that are in your control. And at the same time, believe me, we are very diligent about dental office management too. And we do, I know that not every dental office has the ideal environment themselves. And so we take things like that into consideration. But my take on it is that as a dental professional, what's in control of you as a professional are the things that you can influence. So being on time, being prepared, being professional, good communication skills, focusing on good patient care and clinical skills too. Giving the positive experience. And of course, we're here to help with full-time customer support and membership review. A busy map of this system. I'm not going to walk through it too much, but I had an infographic made about it, right? So we've got 0 to 4 shifts, then you hit 5 shifts. Now fair fresh start is, but your provisional through here, your reliability and your feedback are here. The internal scores are going from outstanding, strong, or fair, and needs attention, which is kind of that top 10% down to below average. Then you have full access, then limited access, which has 2 different levels. Then you're required to take a course, depending. We have a reliability course and a feedback course. Once you take the course, you're back to re-entry. So you've been reinstated with some limitations, but to work your way back up. But if you hit that again, there's no second courses required. You go down to not a fit, which is should be the very, very small minority, just given what we've really tried to do to make sure people have early transparency and to be set up for success that way. And then you've got your My Stats, which explains all of your statistics. And we're feeling very excited about this just being a better way to manage our community fairly and diligently at scale, right? Because when you start to get into tens of thousands of shifts, it's beyond the capability of any human system or a fully human system to manage. So we have to leverage technology when we can, but just make sure it's tuned to be fair. Quick Q&A. These are just pre-populated Q&A, but are you automatically reset? Not necessarily. So anybody who is, say, currently, if their account is blocked, then this doesn't mean you'll be instantly reinstated, but if there's a situation where you're currently blocked and we roll this thing out and, hey, you know what, you were unfairly blocked and Fair Fresh Start says you should be at limited 1 or active, then that will happen. You will be floated back up. But there are admittedly, and again, it's a very, very small handful of individuals that have just been unfortunately determined. I mean, we had to concede not a fit for our service. So it's not just a blanket reset for everybody, because previous trends and patterns, customer support decisions, and all of those things, they still matter. They're still going to be considered. Dental offices, yes, we care about only good dental offices using, so we're going to be building in transparency membership management for dental offices. If you disagree, just make sure you're clear with your facts, bringing them to support and say, this is what happened, this is what happened. And sometimes they might say, hey, can you send us in a doctor's note or things like that. Courses are assigned based on reliability and feedback. Yes, you can rebuild your standing because you're going to have lots of warning of those, like the rumble strip on the highway of saying, you're slipping here, here's a course you could take. So the courses, you don't necessarily need to be in course required to take the course. You might be slipping in reliability and then have the option and just on your own accord say, I should probably watch the feedback course, because they're quite good and they're well made. You can still see your history and your invoices. So even if you're deemed not a fit for our service, if you're in that, unfortunately, then you can still see your records and all of that. And you go into My Stats to see your current stats and your limitations and pass forward. I'll pause here. So anybody with a phone, so this QR code, if you scan it, it should take you to a form. So if there's something, like I said, I probably necessarily answer specific individual account questions in real time because I just don't have the context or the information to address an individual's concern, but I'll answer any remaining questions. But if there's something specific that you want to ask, just scan the code, put it in your email, and even if it's just feedback or questions or things maybe we didn't think of, we'd love to, because we're always iterating on things too. So we're going to roll this out, but it doesn't mean it's done and done. There's going to be ways that we might be able to polish it up or shave off some edges of it and that kind of thing. So we will work on that.
We got a couple questions just asking what will happen if dental offices aren't leaving feedback. How is that going to affect my status?
Yeah, I think that is up here. So feedback is only considered where feedback is given. So no feedback is not considered bad feedback. the percentages and the percentiles of feedback are only based on that feedback that is given and received. So yeah, so imagine you complete 10 shifts, only 5 offices gave feedback. Well, it's only the feedback of those 5 shifts that's considered. It's not considered 5 out of 10 where the other 5 are zeros, and it kind of skews that negatively. That answer that one? Was there another one, Holly?
Nope, that was it. Great, thank you.
Well, thanks everyone. I figured, and we were talking about probably everyone's knowing when is this going to happen because it's not live yet. But I wanted to, we're still in final testing, and I want to do that kind of the deep dive to make sure that when we roll it out, that there's it's still making sense. As we've been building it, I've been running analytics to make sure it doesn't drift away from what we're intending to do, and it seems pretty tight. But we're just going to run here's what the gardener's saying, here's what Fair Fresh Start is saying, where's the mesh, where's the overlap, what's the kind of any jostling around of statuses, make sure it's tuned properly, roll it out. But even when we roll it out, you don't have to worry about your status dropping, because even if your status would drop, there's that grandfathering period of 3 months where you'll have that transparency and the opportunity to not only preserve your status, but even grow your status higher as well. Barbara, I see your question. So I'm wondering, so let me go back to the QR code. So anything related to that, if you could scan and just fill out that form and send it in, then at least we can take a custom look at anybody's specific situation. So we're happy to look at it. I just don't know, just because I only have the slide presentation open now. I don't have anyone's accounts, and I don't have a customer support tool open or anything like that. But yeah, anything like that, if you can just fire off that email from the form, we'll make sure that our membership review and customer support team take a look at it and get back to you about it. I guess that's it. I can stop sharing here. Luce, do you want to say a quick hello and goodbye? We have people from the TempStars team here. So Shelby, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi everybody. It's nice to see everybody here. It's nice to actually interact and engage with everyone live in the community. And I can put my camera on too. Here we go. There we go.
Lucy always looks like she's in Florida, and sometimes she is.
Yes. I was able to answer some of the questions, and if you want to reach out to me directly, I have no problem at all having a look at that. But the QR that Dr. Younger had up will be very helpful if you can fill out those questions.
Thanks, Lucy. Shelby is our webinar superstar. How did I do, Shelby? I know you're the webinar expert these days. So what do I get? B+?
I took some notes, but yeah, I would definitely say a B+.
I welcome your feedback.
Great. But hi, everybody. I'm normally the one that does all the webinars. I do one like topic every month for both like our offices as well as for our temps. And then I also have a calendar that you are more than welcome to reach out to our customer support team and ask for my calendar. You can book some time with me, and then we can chat one-on-one. We can do some screen sharing, and I can walk you through your accounts, some helpful tips and tricks, and some bits of advice that would help you succeed.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Mallory, I don't know, do you want to say hi?
I'll just say hi real quick. I'm so excited to have everyone on the call and so excited for this to roll out. It's been a long time coming and a lot of hard work and considerations, and we really do want your feedback when this is out. So please reach out to support, use the QR code that Dr. Younger has shared. We're excited to get moving on this, but also excited just to continue learning and iterating. So thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, 100%. And even if there's improvements to be made or things we didn't think of, I can assure everybody that it was not for lack of effort. We've had 18 months, I think, when we first started talking about this, how we need to fix the gardener and roll this out. And just the entire team has been talking about it, about how we can make sure that it's fair and holistic for our community. So thanks to everyone for their time tonight. Holly, did you have any last words?
No, I was just going to say that was awesome. And selfishly, if I'm in front of a few people, kind of just what James said, but if you guys ever have product ideas or suggestions or anything like that, please send them to the support team because they have a direct channel to our product team and we go through it pretty well daily. So yeah, it's awesome and we love seeing that.
Cool.
Are you able to put the QR code back up?
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Younger? Yeah,
Yep.
just a request coming in.
Sure. There. And so also maybe worth mentioning, because I'm only guessing maybe some people joined a little bit late, but we are going to be sending out an email with a link to this recording, and we're going to have it hosted somewhere. So if you missed the beginning or you ended up joining a bit late and you wanted to catch it from the beginning, this isn't your only opportunity. You'll be able to watch the recording. And I think maybe tomorrow we're going to end up sending out an email saying, hey, we did a webinar last night. If you missed it, here's a link kind of thing. So stay tuned for that if you need to catch up on anything you might have missed. All right. Well, thank you, team. Thank you, fellow dental professionals, and thank you for your time, and looking forward to working with everyone. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.